you know, as an editor, you can bring a lot to a movie. I think that my thing is I try to think about the audience, where the film's going. I try not to be selfish about what I want the film to be, because often if you do that, you undermine the process. So that's my main thing, is to think about where it's going. And often I see with directors, they get very locked into their own world, the story they're telling, which is wonderful for them, but often it doesn't reach the audience, and that's one thing. The other is to do with sort of economy and the way that you tell a story, and often it's related to what I said then, is that you need to think about the whole story and how that works in order to make choices about it. So every part of the filmmaking process, whether it be camera, editing, production design, has to serve the story, essentially. So the decisions you make come out of that. So essentially, if you're deciding what shot to use, a close-up or a wide, it's because of the story that you're telling, and rather than a kind of just a desire, oh, I like that shot, or I want to use that. And that, I think, is the biggest mistake that young filmmakers do, is that they kind of, it's a little indulgent. They haven't really, I mean, often it's because the story isn't clear in your head. But that process, the process of doing that and analysing the story like that, will actually clarify that for you. And I think that's, for me, is the biggest thing. With a feature film, it's a very long process. You spend at least 8-9 months on every film, and so you have to sort of be prepared for that. That's the first thing. It's like you're training for a marathon or something, rather than something much, a sprint. You really have to kind of prepare and for that length of time, and basically what I do is we start on the first. When they're filming, the first day of shooting, you start and you get the dailies the next morning, and you make assemblies at that point of what the director has shot, just sketches really, and put the scenes together very roughly in order to show the director or producers or whoever needs to, and also to get an idea of how it's working, the film, and also have they shot enough shots, and also you start a dialogue then between yourself and the director and producer and cameraman. So that process happens right the way through to the end of the filming, and then at that point the director comes in and you essentially do a director's cut, and up to that point it's been the editor's cut essentially. I've been making the decisions about what to put where, and you put the whole film together roughly and then watch it, and then start for 8, 9, 10 weeks making the film that the director wants to make, and that's the kind of the core part of the process really. After that, essentially, you then you start bringing in other people from other sides, like visual effects, sound, because you then have to, what you've just got then is a very a low resolution version of the film in the editing system that you have, and so you have to then bring that to completion and make that work on a big screen at high quality. And so we bring all the people to do the picture, the sound, and you start working on the film in more detail, improving it, and perhaps testing the film with audiences, all the while making cuts. And then essentially when you've arrived at the cut that you want, which would be at that point not the director's cut, it then develops further. It's more of a producer's and director's cut, and you then lock the film and mix the sound, do the all the picture finishing and get it onto film, and that process takes 2 or 3 months. So all the while, I mean, creatively, it's a for the editor, it's a process of reevaluating what you've done, reworking, rewriting the script sometimes, just taking things out that don't work, rearranging the scenes occasionally if they don't work, and it's a very organic process. It's sort of, and sometimes it takes a long time, like months and months. Sometimes it's very quick. I think you're looking at the value of what a shot is, what it says to you, and if you, in order to hold a shot for longer, for instance, the performance has to work, the acting has to work, and a lot of the decisions you make to do with pacing are based around that. It's like, well, that doesn't quite work played out long the way the actor did it, so actually it would work better faster. So it comes from that. It comes from a feeling you have about what the film should play like, what you want it to be. Do you want people to be kind of pulled along by the film in a, you know, that do you want them to be very kind of, the film to be pacey at the I mean, it's a decision that you make very, I find, just from a feeling rather than actually necessarily thinking, well, this is how the film naturally is, you know. It comes from the script. You have an idea of what you're intending to do with it, you know, and if, for instance, people are watching the first 20 minutes and they're bored, then you have to do something about it. And it may be pace, it may be speeding things up, but it may be trying a different approach, you know, like putting different music on it, or having no music on it, that may make something more interesting. I have to say, when I was early on starting off editing, I didn't cut things tight enough. And I just, because I felt that the material was quite precious, and I think that I don't have that approach at all now. I don't feel anything's precious. Nothing is more important than another, and I think that's a very important thing to do with that. That'll help you with pace, because if you're scared of cutting a shot in two because you love, you know, you think that the last part of it was wonderful, and although earlier bits don't work as well, you just want to play it because the end is what you want. Well, that will lead you into a blind alley, you know. You need to free yourself of that and make cuts. Just anything can be cut out or changed or the order swapped, and that's really crucial, you know, is not to be precious with the material. And I think that's the biggest bit of advice I'd give for anyone. It's the biggest battle as well that you have when you're editing a film.